So first I'm going to introduce just Mia is a friend of mine. We've been in business coaching programs together. I have been in several of Mia's wonderful trainings on mostly on writing for business. And also just enjoy following Mia's travel and socializing adventures. And I'm going to find your actual bio as well, but Mia, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. This sounds like a great summit.
It is great. It is great. Where do I have the blurbs? I now have them. Oh. Here it is. Oh, okay. I did already have it open. It's okay. So Mia Kercher is a hypnotist, coach, and copywriter who helps people rewire their subconscious mind so they can take bold, lasting action. Her work blends clinical hypnosis, marketing strategies, and practical experience from years of solo travel through lesser traveled countries, engaging deeply with local people. She helps people overcome blocks, speak up, and create the change they want, whether that's launching a business, building community, or amplifying their voice online for activism and important creative work. So welcome, Mia. And before we get into the specific questions, why don't you just share your story of how you got started and how you came to where you're at now in your business?
Yes, sure. So I started to work online several years ago now. I think it was 2018. I left to travel. I did the whole sell all my stuff and just have a backpack and go travel around Europe. And I was traveling on savings, and over the course of 2.5 years, those savings quickly dwindled down. And I just kept thinking, I've got to find a way to keep this up. I don't want to go home and get a job. I'll figure something out. And so I started to, Google how to make money online, tried a bunch of things, paid for a few scams, and eventually came into copywriting, which is pretty similar to my background. I'm a linguist and a writer. And so I realized, ooh, I could, this is like something that I could really do. And so I totally threw myself into it, started a copywriting business. Um, in the process, ended up niching down. For those of you, I'm not sure how many of you are business owners, but basically like narrowing down my focus into helping coaches, because I realized that this personal development sphere is something that's really useful and really helps a lot of people. And I was excited to promote people who were really making changes in people's lives and in the world. Um, and then as I progressed through that, I started to think, well, how can I make this even more impactful? Of course, it changes people's lives to help them grow a business, and entrepreneurship is great and all of this stuff, but how can I make even more of an impact? And so I started to really start narrowing down my focus towards working with people who were actively speaking out about their beliefs online, not just how can I change one person's life, and then of course that changes maybe their family and impacts several lives, but how can we change things on a cultural level? How can we focus this messaging not just on helping people improve their own life, but on helping people really focus on change on a bigger scale? And especially using platforms, because online is now the way to spread information and to get people to join your movement. And the more people you have, watching you and resonating with you, the more power that you're able to spread. And there are so many people, not to go too much of a tangent, but there's so many people who are doing really important work, but they like hide on social media because of all kinds of things, right? Mindset blocks and visibility blocks, and also people just thinking, well, maybe my voice doesn't matter, or I don't have a compelling way to say it, or whatever. But The more that you can actually get your voice out there and speak out about what you believe in and what kind of change you want to make, the more change we actually make in the world.
Mm,
So yeah, that's kind of my specialty at the moment is I'm sort of blending all of these things where it's like I help you put it out there strategically, and I also help you to overcome the blocks that keep you small and help you really spread your message and spread your voice much farther.
mm. Thank you, Mia. And I really invited you on, yeah, to talk about people finding their voice, right? Because that is something that people will come to me and say, I'm not using my voice, which it's so interesting. 3 people have come to me saying that they want to work with me so that they start using their voice. And it's not even a choice of words I would ever use, right? I don't think of myself as someone who has used, knows my voice, uses my voice, helps people find their voice. And yet I probably do. So, like, what would you say is like, I think I want to ask, like, what, when you see that people aren't really using their voice, like, and they may already be sharing, but they're hiding something, like, what are the most common, what's 1 or 2 of the most common blocks, and what do you do to help them unlock something that's hidden?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so if somebody is sort of hiding and they're not really using their voice, what are the main things that are holding people back, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing is it's first of all kind of this idea that we experience in any kind of activism or speaking out or stepping into your power, these kinds of things of saying, well, I don't have anything original to say. I don't know what to say. Maybe these are 2 separate things, but they kind of go together pretty well. And maybe those of you here can let me know if you've felt those feelings before, like they're holding, maybe
Yeah.
they've held you back at times.
And somebody put imposter syndrome in the
Yeah,
chat
imposter
also.
syndrome. Okay, yeah, yeah, for sure. With these, yeah, these are really common ones. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't have anything original to say, or who am I to say this, right? That's essentially imposter syndrome. And I think that these blocks are they sometimes they're part emotional, but they're also part just a matter of skill.
Hmm.
Um, because the thing is, you do know what to say. Like you have things that you think about all day long. Probably most of you are big overthinkers. I am also. You just, something comes into your news feed, something comes into your social media feed, you have a conversation with somebody, and it's got your wheels turning. You're thinking about all kinds of things. There's all kinds of things that you are desperately passionate about, and then you're like, but I don't know what to say online.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think this is where a lot of the times we think everything has to be packaged up all pretty with a ribbon tied on top. We've got to know how to make viral content, and we have to know how to make all these video transitions and professionally designed, branding and all of this kind of stuff, when really it's a matter of just start to say the things that are coming up for you. Start to say the things that you're thinking. Now, of course, there are ways where you can package it up a little more effectively, where you can, there are things in copywriting like getting a hook that grabs people's attention, kind of having a train of thought that follows, like you make a point in the beginning and you support that point and then you conclude it. So it makes a nice little message that people can resonate with. Um, but those are pretty basic copywriting skills, I would say. You could just take, a copywriting class and it'll teach you how to do that. So then you just kind of put your thoughts and what you're already overthinking about, just
Mm,
plug it in there and let it go out there and be a little bit messy, which coincidentally is the kind of content that is really doing well in social media these days. That's what people are really liking.
mm. And I just had another thought, which is well, actually, first I want to say, yeah, that reminds me of me when I first started working with you. I was like, I don't understand copy. What do I say on Instagram? I have nothing to say. And you'd be like, but you say such amazing things in regular
Exactly.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, that happens with my clients all the time. They're like, I don't know what to say. And then I just start to ask them a few questions. Okay, what do you do? What do you think about this? Dig a little deeper, you know? And then they just start to say things and they talk and they get into their zone of genius and they're spouting things off and they're saying amazing things. And then I'm like, go back and listen to this recording and just transcribe it because you just created some amazing content that you can share.
Sorry, somebody's asking a question about the schedule. Julio, can you let that person know when Martha is? Um, yeah. And what do I want to say about what you just shared? Yeah. So there's finding our voice. There's also trusting our voice is kind of what I'm hearing. Like, yeah, I had said something like, oh yeah, I told people here about my story of being paralyzed when Trump was elected the first time. And I said, I had done a lot of great things already. I'm 2% of the reason people say LGBTQ plus instead of just lesbian gay. And you're like, that's like really great copy. People want to hear your voice. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody else is talking that way. And like you think it has to be a certain way. And this is, we're talking about like copy, which is like a technical term for online business people, but any kind of expression we can think, oh, you have to be a certain way, you have to be a certain way to you have to talk a certain way if you write your legislator, or you have to talk a certain way if you invite your friends to start an organization. But actually you get to talk the way you talk and say the things you're already thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ties to the who am I to say this kind of topic as well, where a lot of the times we see people speaking publicly um who seem like they just know so much and they have so much background and um the thing that people really like is this whole sort of independent journalism thing that I mean, I think it's really taking off now because more and more people are using social media. But it's like where you're observing something and you're watching it and you're responding to it and you're sharing your thoughts about it, where it does not have to be, I know this perfectly and I know this background and this background and this thing and you know, it's like those people, great for them that they have that. I'm not one of those people either in most topics. Most things I feel fairly inadequate when I'm talking about them. But it's like, what are your strengths that you bring to the table? Are you really good at observing what's going on and coming up with an analytical approach, regardless of what your background is or how much you know about it? Are you really good at humor and making funny comments about something and like bringing lightness to it or shining a new light through humor to it? Are you really good at reading body language and then being able to translate that into, you know, helping people learn how they can read body language as they watch these things going on? Or, you know, basically what are your skills and strengths where you're good at communicating and where you have a gift to share and something to offer, and then embrace that and go with it and use it.
Mm, so great, so great. um and then I'm just okay. Well, that's okay. And then the other thing is about, I think another hesitation people have, and maybe this can come into your story about shifting from sharing about only business to actually sharing about politics and travel and sex and um, camping. And so, uh, what about like being conflict averse? Like people are like, oh my God, if I share this, somebody's going to react. Like,
Well, yeah,
do
I
people,
mean,
is that something that people say? Like, oh God, I can't say this, I'll be embarrassed, or someone will get mad, or um, like even when you were talking about thinking you need to be an expert, there are people who won't speak up about Palestine because they're like, well, I don't know what was happening in 1947, right?
yeah,
And somebody will come back to them with, well, but what about 1948? And they'll be like, oh my God, I can't handle it. I can't talk about, like, who got killed yesterday if I don't know everything about the
right,
geopolitics,
yeah.
right?
I
So
mean, that's definitely a thing. I'm sure it will happen. I haven't heard of anybody who it doesn't happen to unless they're not saying anything opinionated or, speaking up about things. But I think that one thing that we can all remember is that you can deal with things at your own capacity. If you don't want to deal with something somebody's saying, you literally don't have to. I mean, when I was in Afghanistan and Pakistan and I was sharing things, and that region is a very politically complex area. And I'm just saying things like as I'm experiencing them, like, oh, this person said this to me. Interesting. And I post that online, like, and then I would get some comments, well, we don't think that they don't think that, it's because blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I read the comments and I take them with a humble approach, like because in one way, it's a great way for me to connect with people locally and internationally and hear what people have to say about things. I am very curious, that's also part of why I post these things online. I like to hear local people's feedback. Oh, maybe that's true because of this and this thing that I never heard of. So I take it as a learning approach. And then if there are aggressive comments, you can delete them or you can leave them and just be glad that the algorithm is pushing your content further because people are commenting. You can do whatever you want with them. You can block people, you don't have to block people. You can learn from the comments, you don't have to respond to them. So it's all on your own terms. You're not like willy-nilly thrown around wherever people take you.
yeah, yeah, I love that. And yeah, I'm hearing you can decide how much to tolerate, how much risk to take based on what you can tolerate. But I'm also hearing you won't die if people get
Yeah.
upset, and you you still have a choice. Once they do what they do, you have a choice how to deal with it. And there's lots of ways to deal with it that all involve not dying. Yeah.
Yes.
And somebody has a comment in the chat. Let me see what they said. Somebody uh, somebody saw something online about negative comments. At first, she felt hurt with negative comments, but eventually she decided these will always be there. And by accepting that fact, you could focus on all the nice comments. Yeah. Um, and tell everybody, like, I was kind of there when you were starting this thought process where you went from like posting on Instagram a few days a week, like tips on how to write better copy, and they were great tips, right? And you were very comfortable. You would write them as you were washing the dishes or whatever, and like feeling like you'd lost connection to that and you wanted to be more authentic and share about deeper things. And like, what was the thought process? What was the action process? What was the result?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it was gradual. It's like, of course, when I started trying to get clients online, figuring out how to use Instagram and this stuff. It's like, okay, what do I need to do in order to get clients? I post this kind of content, and okay, that worked for a while. And then we always, once we get to a level, we can enjoy it for a little while, but then our human nature wants to go to another level. And so that was more of a gradual journey of like, okay, well, now I'm going to share this. And it was, I think beginning of 2023, I was like trying to write copy for a client about some business course or something, and Russia was attacking Ukraine. Still are, but that was kind of right when that like
Sure.
iteration restarted. And I was just like, oh, I can't even write any of this. I just can't stop thinking about Ukraine. And then it was like, oh, fuck it. I'm just gonna go to Ukraine. Like, why not? I live in Serbia, it's close. And so I just started to post on Instagram, hey, I'm going to Ukraine. Here's a PayPal link. Does somebody want to donate so I can fill up my car and take stuff? And um, I was amazed. People donated like $2,000 within a couple days. And just like taking people along on the journey, like, make a video, nothing professional, just kind of sharing what I was doing that day. Okay, I tried to help people do this and tried to do this. And um, I wasn't actually in Ukraine, I was in Poland. But anyway, um, yeah, so that there was that kind of like element of like, let me just take people on the journey and take into account the fact that all of my clients and most of the people who follow me all want to make a difference. And so if something is going on where I'm trying to help people, they want to get on board and they want to like, not everybody can go and volunteer for things, but they want to like see what's happening and contribute and help and support in all of this. So starting to bring people along on the journey. And then, yeah, then a year and a half ago, I decided to just do a big adventure and I wanted to drive my car from Serbia to Vietnam to see if it was possible. So I wanted to drive all the way across Asia and I just like started to go and I was sharing about that and sort of sharing about copywriting and things like this at the same time, right? Like running a business, making money and traveling at the same time, balancing the two. But I was like, the journey got more intense as it went on. And it was like, wow, this is really just like becoming everything that's important to me at the moment. And I didn't really want to be posting on Instagram about my business and stuff like that. I didn't really want to be talking much about copywriting, even though I love to nerd out on this kind of stuff. It's really fun for me. But I just wanted to share about my travels and share about my journey. So I was doing that, and then I was sending some emails about different offers that I was selling. And it's it's interesting to see how strategically it probably doesn't make sense. Um, but somehow, realistically, it ended up working out really well, where my business was not only like staying the same, but it was actually growing, and I was doing really well from that. Um, and then people were saying, like, oh, I wanted to work with you because I like that you're traveling and I want to live that kind of lifestyle and I want to do that. And so indirectly, it was sort of like, I don't know about a better word, but like validating what I was offering people. Like, oh, I can teach you how to market your business and run a business and stuff like that, and work less and all this stuff. And then over here at the same time, you can follow me on Instagram and you can see how I'm actually doing that. Um, so I think that that's a big lesson that we can all follow is that when you really feel like you're pulled to share something and you're pulled to either let go for something or go for something, usually they kind of go hand in hand, um, that it does work out. So, you know, if you follow your passions, the universe or whoever is not going to leave you stranded on your back. Like it's gonna work out for you.
Mm. And also, yeah, there's the trust thing, but also, I mean, there's people care about people want to connect with human beings. And like you were connect you've got your audience is across continents. It's like mostly people you don't know in real life, maybe people who like they only know you through what you put on Instagram and send an email. And
Yeah.
to be someone really interesting who is backpacking across Afghanistan by yourself with a cat, like who doesn't want to watch that story?
Right.
And I'm also hearing, what do I want to say? Yeah. So, and the bottom line is like being yourself, it actually makes you worth listening to, right? Like, because your copywriting tips were very good, and there are other people writing good copywriting tips, right?
Yes.
And but none of them lot of them were backpacking across Afghanistan with their cat, right? And so that's one thing, is just, yeah, bringing your authenticity makes you more interesting, has people more interested in listening to everything you say, right?
Yeah.
And then there was something else that I wanted to bring out about like courage and not hiding. Oh, and you inspired others by taking action and sharing, right? Like I know I've said to you more than once that I really wish I'd gone to Afghanistan with my mother when she was alive, right? Because
Yeah.
she loves pomegranates and textiles, and we traveled together a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
before
That would
COVID.
be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
people are inspired when you take action on your ideas. I mean, it's like, no, I'm nobody special that I went and drove across Asia. I just had the idea and I did it. And there's a lot of overthinking with a lot of people when it comes to ideas, whether it's your business or your activism or whatever it is. A lot of people will overthink something and talk themselves out of it, or prepare themselves out of it to the point where it doesn't get done. Um, and you just kind of have to go for it, and you do figure things out as you go. It's like, how do I mix my social media with my business with, and I'm still even figuring that out. I'm sort of throwing a lot of things into the pot at the moment, stirring it around, seeing how it lands. But that's just what you do when you're creating.
I'm going to go in kind of two different directions, and then we should ask about your gift and open up to questions from the floor. So even just expressing ideas, even when you don't take that much action on them, can inspire people. Like I've asked Marianne Williamson to be on this show 4 times, and she has said no. She's like, your audience isn't big enough. And she started talking about fascism, right? After each time I invite her, she talks about fascism more, right? And that's Marianne Williamson. That's someone who's much more famous than me. But just because I've been using the word for 10 years about the American context, and not that many people were. Every time I say to someone, do you want to, join me in talking about what we can do to stop fascism? It gives them permission to use the word, to care, to notice what's going on, right? Yeah. So all these courageous things, they blaze a trail in whatever way they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my question for you is just what's like one tip for somebody who's like, yeah, I know I have something to express, or I know I'm ready to do something adventurous or controversial or the nonconformist or whatever, but I don't know if I can take that leap. Like, what's one tip? I mean, like, I know you've got hypnosis for this, and you've got courses, and you've got these more involved processes, but what would be like, a tip that people can try?
I think you have to do something that makes it very difficult to back out.
Ooh.
So, like, give the notice at your apartment that you're moving out at the end of the month, or, like, I don't know what other things. Tell everybody I don't know, make an announcement on Facebook, or sell something you need to sell that you would need if you weren't going to do this thing, um, sometimes that's like invest in a program that's going to keep you account that's like so expensive that you make sure you show up for it, or
Yeah, quit your job to start your business is like
right, or yeah,
possibly.
make a big move that makes it difficult to go back.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, when I started my first business, I had a organization development like strategic planning, conflict resolution, consulting firm with nonprofits 20 years ago. And yeah, I gave notice at my job. I gave 18 months notice, but I gave notice at my job. I left my
Yeah.
job and I went full time in my business. And yeah, it does. It makes it hard to back out. So daring yourself in a way that puts you on the line. I love that. Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Mia, you want to share about your free gift? Let me tell you what it is. You remember what it is? How to overcome your fears and do courageous, outrageous things. How appropriate.
Yes, go read those. I made a collection of essays that I wrote, really the top questions that I get around this, where I have people saying, I could never do what you're doing. And one is all about my responses to that. In short, yes, you could, and here are some tangible ways that you can actually do it. One is how to make light and see humor in what would be stressful situations when things go wrong, how to not make it a big deal and just have fun with it. And I cannot remember the third one at the moment. Oh, about like what it means to have an exciting life and how to find out what that would look like for you. So yeah, there's a collection of essays in there that I wrote about that, and there's also a hypnosis about overcoming your fears. So yeah, you can go and get that ebook that's available for you.
Yeah, so for those who are here live, it's in the Zoom chat. And if you're watching the replay, it is in the same email where you got this replay and on the same landing page, website, the replay page. Great. Now we have a little bit of time in case anybody here wants to ask me a question. So raise your digital hand if you have raise your digital hand, or I guess you could also put a question in the chat. What would people like to know or hear or be coached through? Mm. All right, well, let's ask another question. Put a 2 in the chat if you have something to say that you haven't said as widely as you'd like to. Anybody has something that you would say, but you haven't been saying it everywhere where you would like to,
Or you're not sure how.
or you're not sure how. Ooh, we have a question. Okay, so we've got a 2 in the chat. We also have a question from Julia. Let's start on the question. How can we do these interesting things if we live in the US and our health insurance coverage depends on our job?
There's all kinds of interesting things you can do in the US. I mean, I would love to drive around the US and visit all the people that I know in various states and write a book about small town America and how people talk and what they do and how we interact. I would love to go and like interview my relatives who live in different places and hear stories about my family's history that I've never heard before. I mean, there's so many interesting things you can do in the US. It's a huge country.
And I think there's this question about in the US, health insurance is tied to employment, which ties in with a kind of a bigger issue of capitalism. Late stage capitalism makes you addicted to itself so that you can't fight it, right? So you can't, that in early capitalism, it was really people were working under terrible conditions, but they could go on strike because they didn't have as much to lose. And my suggestion is just think, if it was possible, how would I do it? Right? Like I quit my job at the time. uh, Obamacare didn't exist. Health insurance was cheaper. And I went on to Cobra for 18 months, right? Um, and I had the savings for it. And then around the time that that ran out, Obamacare came in and I got expanded Medicaid. And I actually was on Medicaid until a year ago. So there's like logistical ways to do it. But I think it's the mindset of, I need this security. Do you need the security, or do you need something? Do you need a way to get healthcare, right? Like going deep, going more like going more abstract in what you're looking for, and then bringing in your creativity to the how. Like, um,
That's a great point. And I think there can also be things that that you look forward to doing where maybe you realize, okay, there is something I would like to do that would require me to quit my job, for example. Since it sounds like that's what Julia is insinuating, how can I do this without quitting my job? Um, then there's like, okay, you can have your eye on the prize, so to speak, where you're like, okay, I would like to quit my job and do this adventurous things. Maybe you don't have the money in savings to do it right now. Maybe you need the health insurance and stuff, but then, okay, then you make a plan to work towards that. Like, how is that going to be possible? What money do I need in order to do that? What things do I need to get in order to do that? And have it as a future goal, and then do other things that are like related to it in the
smaller.
meantime while you're waiting. So I mean, when I was in college and I had a job and stuff as well, it's like I wanted to quit and I wanted to go travel, but I wasn't able to based on my circumstances. But I ended up volunteer teaching English to refugees in Portland, where I lived. And I got to meet, I was like meeting people from Somalia and Eritrea, and they were inviting me to their homes, and I was trying their food, and I was going to mosque with them and seeing what mosque was like. And I mean, that's basically like traveling, just you don't have to go
Mhm.
anywhere. So, yeah, whatever your goal is, think about, well, how can I actually do this while I'm at home and not quite able to make the big goal happen just yet, but I can do something.
Mm, I love that. Just have a little piece of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I've often thought, like, how can anybody not like immigrants? Having immigrants is like traveling abroad
right.
without having to pay for the travel. I've always felt that way. My first job out of grad school was working with Haitian refugees, actually.
Awesome.
Um, any other questions? Questions for Mia? Questions about speaking up? Questions about finding your voice, using your voice, having a clear message, having your message land with others?
I see a two in the chat as well. If
Oh
somebody
yeah,
does want to share something that they'd like to like flesh out and get some advice on, I'm happy to give some practical advice too.
yeah. Who's it from? Sage.
Hi, thank you
Anything
for
you
the
want to share?
opportunity, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Um, I checked out your site, and all I kept thinking of was, oh my God, how did you get the cat to do that? That's not the message that I'm wanting to project, although I think that could go viral. How I got my cat to go to Serbia and to
Yeah, my
Afghanistan.
cats would not stay in a backpack. Mia's
Yeah, I
cat
mean,
is
that would
amazing.
go viral, Mia.
Yeah.
I was literally skimming your site, just looking for that part. I'm like, okay, all this is great, but how did she get the cat to do my message? So that's a free tip, by the way. You don't have to credit me with it. Um, I would like to broadcast more fully and to also be an example of what is exemplified or what could be demonstrated with the metaphor of a medicine wheel, a Native American medicine wheel, where everything has a place on that wheel. everyone, everything has a place on that wheel. Like I remember I was at a ceremony for the equinox, and there was a young woman who showed up late, and she's on her cell phone, like on during our ceremony. She's like turning away. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't coach them well enough before they arrived. And here's my teacher. And then I had this download of what my teacher was saying, which was, it all belongs. And I realized that her being on her cell phone, was part of everything being exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that she belongs to. I'd really like to broadcast and live in a world where we have a deep sense of knowing that we are where we belong, and that we are bringing um, the gift that we came here to bring, the unique gift we came here to bring, and that it's a direct connection to source, and that, through the earth, and this like real connection. I do it with singing when that's a modality I'm told is helping people with that, because when I do devotional singing, I do prayer song, it's heart to heart, right? So there's a sense of and maybe it is simply exemplifying, you know what I mean? I don't think it's like coaching people through words, and yet I want it to, I want that to be, I want to live in that world. I don't want teenage suicide. I don't want shootings, like all of these things that I really believe happen from an absence of a real sense of I belong here, just as I am.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
Is there any advice that you would like on that, or more of just putting it into the space and everybody feeling that?
Hmm. When you ask that question, what comes to mind is I have another teacher, Dr. Beckwith, and he was at the United Nations once. He had an opportunity to speak, and there were these world leaders. The place was filled with world leaders, and everybody had different backgrounds, everybody had different agendas, everybody had different whatever. And it was either 2 or 5 minutes total to speak to everyone. And what he did was he just said, he went up he got in front of everyone and he said, would you be willing to close your eyes if that works for you? But if not, don't close your eyes. But simply take a breath. So I would invite everyone on our call, if you're willing, just take a breath and then exhale. And maybe together, take another in breath and then exhale. And then he pointed out, as I will point out now, that we all just did the same thing at the same time. And there was room for all of us. So maybe it is about bringing experiences, I would love coaching. I would love anything that you would share.
Yeah, I think what you did was very powerful, showing people, and as you said, you're singing as well. So bringing those gifts where you're showing rather than telling is always a powerful thing. And I think that there are, of course, many different ways that you can speak about it. For example, storytelling is a really powerful one, which keeps that feeling alive, without necessarily having like a thing you're telling people to do. It's more like, here's a story, and then tying your conclusion in. I think it really helps in any body of work when you have an overarching message that people know is your overarching message, and then the different creative, playful, whatever ways, healing ways that you want to bring them in, then just letting people know, it's like when you go to a museum and it's great to look at a piece of art on the wall, but it's also really interesting to read the little plaque beside it and hear actually where it came from. So that can always be like an extra oomph to really get the message across in a small but significant way.
Thank you. I'm a professional writer, so I love the writing and the speaking. Yeah, that feels great.
Awesome.
And thank you for that container. Again, like that simple knowing what the overarching message is, and there it doesn't even need to be the naming of that in each iteration. It's simply stories around it, being around it, giving the experience. Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Alice.
I have
Oh,
one more thing,
wonderful. Oh, go
Sage,
ahead.
for you.
Yes, yes.
So you just shared this in front of 30 people,
Right,
and
I was
500
thinking
people,
that.
and 500 people will have access to the replay. And you get to just choose what's the next space that you want to do this in. Like, what you know how you lead this work in 5 minutes because you just did it. You get to choose one space, then the next space, then the next space.
Thank you. I just put my website, I renamed myself as my website in case anyone wants to contact me. That was very, very sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sage. We have another question in the chat, and I don't think we have time to answer it live. Okay, let's think about time. So I want to remind people of this. There's 4 things I want to do in the next 12 minutes. So I want to remind people of Mia's gift, remind people of the VIP opportunity. Oh, Julio just put Mia's gift in the chat. Mia's gift is how to overcome your fears and do courageous, outrageous things. It is 3 essays plus a hypnosis. And Julio, will you also put in the VIP again? So the option of VIP, and I think this is really appropriate for you, Sage, is you get lifetime access to all the recordings, and also you get access to a 3-day Ground Your Resistance intensive 2 weeks from now, and a free Impactful You breakthrough call, which is what I thought of with you for you, Sage, with me. And if you sign up for VIP by lunch today, which is in a little over an hour, you also get my Ground Your Resistance cheat sheet and free access to last year's Deep Activism workshop. I want to give people a chance for a break before the next speaker, and we do have one question in the chat. Do you want to just maybe, I don't know, one thought is maybe you could just answer it from the chat as opposed to having the person come on live. Although I didn't understand the question, how to reach others without participating in their coercion. Did you understand that question? Oh my goodness, I thought my phone was off and it's ringing.
I think it's how to do it without coercing people. Is that right, Quentin? Thumbs up.
I'll mute myself. My goodness, what a phone.
How to reach others without coercing them. You can call people to action without putting blame on them, making them feel like it's their fault. I think that's really the essential piece, actually, because this is always a huge question in copywriting. How do I tell people to take an action, tell people to do something? How do I point out like where their weaknesses are and where they need to make a change? It comes with being able to point to the real cause of the problem, which is not them and their fault, and they're not doing this and they're falling short in this. It's what's causing this. What higher system, oppressive system is actually causing this? And you can tie that into what you're speaking about when you tell them to take action. One of the things I just made a call to action in one of my emails was like, let's fuck capitalism and you can learn how to do XYZ. I can't remember what it was at the moment, but it's like that's the call to action. It's about like, let's dismantle capitalism and you get this outcome, this thing that you want. So that's kind of a quick answer.
Okay, I got really distracted by my phone making 100 noises, and I'm back. And let's just thank you so much, Mia. Everybody put an emoji of love for Mia and the difference she has made for us with your generosity and wisdom and fun and play, because you always bring fun and play to your wisdom, and it's one of the best things.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.